Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It is Sunday night, I believe it's August 18th, and all I can tell you is it is hot. It's been 100 plus like for the last week or so. I think today was slightly cooler than yesterday. I think we were 105 yesterday, 104 today. And I was out here to record this video earlier in the day. I was interrupted, kind of had to shut up the shop, and I swear it's hotter now. But, I'm out here to get this done, and this is kind of an interesting little tool haul for you, namely because the reason that I bought all this stuff, the reason I made that order at that time was for the tool of the day. And as of me filming this, I don't have the tool of the day, and the tool of the day isn't, I don't think, going to hit a KC tool until September. And initially it was like July, late July it was going to come in. And that ship has sailed, literally, and the tool of the day was not on it. So I've been waiting, and they would have shipped this to me. I told them to hold off. I was going out of town. And then I actually placed, like, everything I do is super late at night. I placed, I think, 1 or 2 orders. And I just assumed the pliers would come in, and it would come and kind of be a surprise. And that didn't happen. And so bottom line, then I had another order I placed. And I thought, you know what, screw it. I really want to get one of these items in here. And told them to go ahead partially ship it. So I don't have the tool of the day. I'm not going to spoil it because we'll save that for when we do get it. But with that said, we got a couple of decent things. I started to just combine them, 18 and 19, and I thought, no, let's try to, for the sake of a shorter video, I'll try to deliver that up to you. And instead of having one really like 30-minute long one, maybe we can get by with 2 like 12 and 18, somewhere in there, just guesstimating. But on that note, let's go ahead and get cracking here. This is something I've never seen anyone bring in, and probably for good reason. You can get something similar as close as Walmart, AutoZone, your local parts store, Tractor Supply, whatever you've got handy. But this is one that I've never been able to ascertain locally. I think I've seen them online, and it's always a stupid deal where you have to pay some exorbitant amount in freight, which is almost more than the product. And lo and behold, somehow when I was mulling around on KC Tool, I found this one night, put it on a wish list. Then when that tool of the day came up, stick on a couple more items here and there. And one of them was from Hazet. It is part number 197N-1. And I'll tell you what, some of you won't appreciate this, the rest of you will. So as I drop it down here, you're probably like, okay, it's plastic, we know that. If you haven't crossed the part numbers, which you probably haven't, it'll still be somewhat of a surprise for you. Made in the Czech Republic. Some of you might become fans or might dismiss it. I'm not sure how you roll. But what this is an oil drain pan, a drain pan. You can use it for anything. It doesn't have to be oil. It can catch your power steering leak on your classic Muscle-Era Mopar. It can be radiator, you know, whatever you've got going on, this is a drain pan. However, where this stands apart is a couple of places. Number one, it does have graduations. There, metric, then there's UK and US gallons over here where my index finger is. There is a spout, and I'll tell you what, that is a big deal for me personally, and here's why. I'm a DIY type. I do my own oil changes, don't really trust other people to do it. It's simple to do. The problem, the pain with doing your own oil is disposing of the oil. And for me, there's a place, the city has a oil disposal site where you have to take your oil and dump it. That's fine and good. The problem is getting it from the engine to that dump site. And this is step one. You pull the drain plug, it drops into your drain pan. And for the longest time, I just had like this huge Sterlite storage container. And then I put another one inside of it, so it was like double walled in case it ever like cracked or leaked or something. I'd have a little bit of maybe extra protection. And it works really well. The problem is I would just fill it up to capacity, and then I'd get into a point where it's a pain in the butt to have to actually get all that oil back into a container and then go dispose of it. And so that little suction gun I brought in from Amazon, which worked great, by the way, I believe it was OTC, that worked really well, and that actually emptied out probably close to 40 gallons of oil. And anyway, long story short there, from now on, I've sworn to myself I'm never going to let it just accumulate like that. I'm going to drain it and dispose of it. If I got off work Friday, drained my oil, changed it over the weekend, Monday when I go back to work in town, I'm taking the oil with me to dump it. Best way I found to do that from a DIY perspective is the literal quart or gallon jugs of oil. I typically use gallon and a quart. Depends on what vehicle it is. Sometimes it's 7 quarts, sometimes it's 5. varies here and there, but I'll just put it back in those containers because they are easy to pour or dispose of. So that is where this comes in. That's going to be really nice to just dump it. If I want to use a suction gun, I can. Works great aside from whenever the oil gets past the seal and it shoots a stream up to the ceiling. Experienced that one about twice as I was learning the tool. However, the selling point for me on that one, and I mentioned the freight, you know, these are like, here in the US you could pick this up for, you know, 10-20 bucks, somewhere in that range. And then the problem is when you have to pay freight to get the stupid thing, and it's like more than the drain pan, then you never buy it, so you never have access to this. And you're thinking, well, what's that? That's just going to impede, you know, it's going to take away surface area. You're not going to be able to hold as much oil. I'll tell you what that's for if you don't know. That, my friends, is huge for DIY people, because when I'm up underneath the car and I'm spinning this filter off of the Mopar tin, it's full of oil. You know, there's a good, you know, close to a quart, it seems like sometimes in these. And my typical reaction is I flip it and it drains really, really slow, as most of you will know. And the catch is, what I do, I have, it's either out of an oven or an early microwave, like a 70s, 80s era microwave. Anyway, I have a tray that kind of goes over the little plastic container, and I just sit it there and leave it and let it drain slowly over time. Well, this, if you can see these pegs here, number one, that's going to be anti-slip where the ridges are, but then where each ridge terminates and halfway in between, there's this little riser. And what that's going to be, this is oil, it's metal, it's going to be slick, it'll slide. Well, that'll catch it. So now when I drain my oil, I can take the filter, I can place it here in the caddy. There we go. I just leave it there. It's going to drain down into the pan that's already, you know, got my oil, which I need to move and transport and dispose of. But it seems like such a minor thing, but I assure you, anyone in my boat, DIY types, what do you do with your filter? You know, it's one of those problems that you just have to deal with. And this, to me, is a very worthwhile solution, particularly when you consider price for this sucker was $20.57. That's a little higher than maybe you could get like Blitz or some other, you know, US-based product. However, I can't find them local, and when I have to come in and pay 20 bucks freight to get the stupid drain pan here, it's kind of a buzzkill. So that's what we've got, and I am pretty excited to give it a go. It's not going to help the filter drain out any faster. It is sloped a little bit, which is nice, but it will just kind of reduce my overall footprint when I do change my oil. So pretty excited about that one. Now, moving on, I will tell you this, the product that we're waiting on, this was going to be like a big NWS video. Not necessarily huge, but I mean, we had primarily NWS stuff. That's what we're waiting on. And something we are not waiting on is right here. It is part number N9634-75. This is made in Germany. The price on it is $26.30, a little bit expensive, but it does differentiate itself from its competitors a little bit. And if you wonder what it is, if you couldn't read that, that's because I was wadding it up so you wouldn't, but it's a cable knife with a wood handle. It's got the NWS logo there, and if you're looking through the plastic, you probably are thinking, hey, that looks different than those other ones. Hazet that you brought in most recently, the Stavilo, the Jador. What's the deal? Well, this is sort of more akin to an old timer or a case, you know, or a buck pocket knife, something we had here in the States growing up. And the reason for that is because there's just multiple blades. And what this is, as best I know, NWS's only cable knife. And of course, we were going to do the cable knife shootout. I'm going to carry them around for a week or so, see which one I liked better and why. And what I can tell you about this one, when I checked it out earlier today, I did not even open it because it is a pain, just like the Jador. I'm assuming this must be beechwood. I don't really like the feel of it. It's the same way with the Jador. This one does not feel as fuzzy as the Jador knife. But the main thing, again, is going to be, are we able to open it easily? Will it break in? And then, of course, you know, how sharp is the blade? What's the blade life like? But again, this is straight Germany, and I will see. God, that is hard to open. Not quite Jador hard. This, I believe, with the slot right there, we could strip cable, but that'll double nicely as a screwdriver. That's one perk this one has. Although when I do try to evaluate the cable knives, we're going to stick strictly, you know, to like one blade in the case of this one. Golly. Okay. That's going to be That's some pretty fat cable that sucker could open up. But that is blade 2. Let me check this text. Oh, okay. Nothing crazy. This is the big one. That's going to be our big blade. I'm going to leave it there just for the sake of having it at that spot. And I think that's kind of what we will probably use when I use it as an EDC or everyday carry. And again, what I'll be doing at work, nothing crazy, nothing taxing. It'll be packing tape, possibly boxes. I usually use a box cutter to break down boxes. When I say break down boxes, I don't mean like a KC toolbox. I'm talking like ridiculously big, thick cardboard. Think castings and motors and things along those lines. That's why I typically don't subject a knife to that. I just stick with a box cutter and a disposable, replaceable blade. But for packing tape, things like that, rope, we do use quite a bit of rope. And packing material, the twine, seems like everyone's going to like the plastic. Used to, you know, everything we still do is 3/4 banding material or strap, which is ridiculous. But so many people now have gone to like the nylon strapping, and so use my knife on that. This next one, try to get it up. I'm not exaggerating that. I mean, I don't have long fingernails, but good lord. You know, this gives you an idea of what you get for $26.50. Basically, the two blades, you've got the cable section here, you've got the long blade, you've got the screwdriver, which again is a perk, and you've got that, which not quite. I've never had a knife that's had that. I guess it's just another blade surface, so let's just shut that. I do have the camera on a tripod in front of me, which makes it a little awkward of a reach, but I'm telling you what, that is some serious effort goes into that. So this guy right here, just since we have it open still, we're going to call that roughly 2 1/4, basically from the tip of the blade to the you know, back of the cable portion. Not probably going to focus on that one. The screwdriver deal I could see coming in handy. That is fairly large for a, if you will, pocket knife screwdriver tip. They're usually a lot smaller than that, but nonetheless, on panels, if I'm ever tasked with that, I have to run out and turn the well on or something. I have to open the panel up. That'll be nice to have. But the main one we want to focus on for what we're doing, oh, that just tore my fingernail. So if you think I'm exaggerating that this is a pain in the butt to open, I am not. And that's really unfortunate. The way this knife is laid out, this being the main blade, I would want to, geez, that hurts, want to be testing. If I can't open it, I'm going to be way less likely to utilize it, you know what I'm saying? But right here, I need to shoot that video too so I can actually start using these. You can kind of see it's pretty daggone close to the Jador unit. And then of course I've got the Stavilla and the Hazet bag back up. So that'll be that video. It'll be coming soon. Might actually shoot that tonight if there's time. And then I can start hauling these. I might actually just throw this one in my pocket and use it at work tomorrow if I can. Well, that was that. That is our NWS knife. And then the final product in this tool haul, again, keep in mind, tool of the day is kind of what we're waiting on, is going to be from NWS. Biddo thanks. I know many of you curious about that. I do have the official checklist. Several of you, Autobahn Dan, something Sun. Was it Hiding in the Sun? Anyway, you know who you are. I've got you tagged at the bottom of the post. Several of you have contributed bits I didn't have, so I've got those added to the checklist. Have a link down below. You can find it on the Lone Star Mopars forum in the tools section, which is newly created. But reason we don't have one here, this was kind of a combined shipment. They only gave me one, so I'm just going to save it for 19, and then hopefully when we get those pliers sent to us, we'll get another bit of things and we can just include it at that point. But right here, our final item in this haul from NWS. This is in 126F 72-120. That tells you exactly what it is. It's a 4.75 inch micro finish plastic grip cutter. And when they say micro, don't just think of the finish, think of the overall size. Price on this sucker, $23.89. What prompted me to buy that is twofold. Let me go ahead and kind of showcase this guy for you. That is tiny. This thing is lighter, significantly lighter than the knife we just had. It's I do have big hands, but I assure you this would get swallowed up by even small hand kids. This would be a really good size for children, and I do mean small children. Overall length, yeah, that puts her in perspective there for you, doesn't it? It's basically just barely bigger than the blade or the handle, however you want to view it. But what I got these for, number one, they were NWS, which I was curious about seeing how they sized up. The Stavilla pliers I brought in, I believe VBW made them. I've not been a big fan of those. I love the color. I like what they were trying to do, but in terms of cutting, they have been a big disappointment to me. I know a lot of people say NWS pliers are disappointing. Those Stavilla ones, I don't know if I held them in too high of a league, but I'm just talking about like cable ties. Simple things they should have no issues with, and it's a noticeable difference between those and, say, Knipex or even the VIA pliers, which most people discount because they're Vietnamese. And I don't know. I love the handle. I like the color scheme, but the performance leaves a bit to be desired. So this is all I have in terms of NWS, like side cutters or any cutting type of plier. And as you can see, it's significantly larger, a whole lot bigger. And that limits where it can go. Well, for a size comparison here, I've got the little 5-inch Cobra, and you can see this guy is actually smaller, not quite as tall as the Cobra. These guys right here that I brought in from Knipex, not necessarily using them for what they're intended, but I'm using them for like relays and electrical connections. They've been awesome. Just as incredibly ridiculously handy as the tiny Cobra is, these have not disappointed, to say the least. There's times you kind of wish that they had a little better grip, like some serrations or something, but at the same time you don't want that because it would tear up what you're working on when it's a delicate electronic. I gotta say, I've been super happy with these, and that's sort of where these NWSs came in. I wanted to bring these in, take advantage of the super small size, and just see how well they perform for me. Could have gone with Knipex, which I'm sure would have been fine. But there's a big part of me, as you should know from the screwdriver side of things, there's a whole lot of tiny side cutters in the world, and I wonder how they do. So that's what we're going to be doing with this NWS one. Now, it is important to note there is the spring there, so it'll pop back open. Typically, that's kind of a problem for me because I hate that it takes up an extra expanded profile in the toolbox. However, with these, they're so freaking small. I mean, this is all that we're gaining. I mean, it's going out like what? Maybe a 1/8 to a 1/2 of an inch, as it kind of tapers across there. So it's not a huge footprint by any stretch of the imagination. It's a strange polished version. Everything NWS I'm accustomed to is like the Titan finish or the matte chromium, these real fancy cool names. This is just sort of more like, it kind of looks like if you went into like a kind of a high-end fishing store, which of these I think would be great in a tackle box, by the way. Just cutting, your spider wire, string, whatever line you're using. But it is sort of like a polished chrome finish, which is weird from NWS, just because, again, I've never seen it. But, I mean, it's putting out some serious refractions there with the light. Nonetheless, what I want to see is how well this thing cuts, and then, of course, it's going to pair very, very well with these tiny little Knipex relay pliers, as I'm going to call them. And I'm still doing some pretty substantial wiring work on some of the cars, and when you're up under the dash, the difference in wielding this to cut a wire and wielding something like that is very, very significant and noticeable. So not only is this lighter and easier when you're contortion, you're on your back turned at like a 45-degree angle with your left hand numb and your right hand trying to cut something that you're holding, with the side of your head type of a scenario. That's what I'm hoping to get out of these, and so we're kind of excited to see how they cut. I should have wire here on the bench, but I'm not seeing anything. Let me actually just grab this spool. This might be a little overkill for her. This is 16 gauge, but let's see what we got. I'll set that down. Come in. Are you ready for it? Okay, so it's an ejector. It's not one of those ones that cuts and holds, but I cut through that. Was again 16 gauge wire. If it can do 16 gauge wire, we should be fine. Could probably cut through 12 fairly easily. And truth be told, that's about the maximum of what I'll have under the dash anyway. So, but the inspiration again for these was small profile. And what do I know about small profiles? These are awesome. These are awesome. Both of those look like novelties, I'll fully admit it. I mean, this NWS knife dwarfs the Cobra and the relay pliers. And I would agree 100% with anyone that says, like, oh, those are just tiny little tools, you know, they're limited in use. They are limited, you know, you don't have near the capacity of a full size, but for tight quarters, these are both ridiculous. Once you bring in, just start with the Cobra, trust me on it. And people in the comment section I know will back me up on that one. They are just super, super handy. These suckers right here, I hope will follow suit. But with that said, that is our tool haul. We got the Hazet Multifunctional. That's right, fancy. Splurge, spent the extra, what, $2-3 to get that oil filter drain stand. Got our Hazet drain pan. We got our NWS 4.75, 4 3/4 inch side cutters, and we've got our NWS cable knife, which is ridiculously hard to open, just like the Jador one. So I think I'll probably take that one to work with me, and it'll just start week 1, and we'll see how it goes. But with that said, this ran a little bit longer than I wanted it to. My apologies there. But tool of the day is still coming at some point in time. I'm about to record tool haul number 19. Got a little bit more stuff in that one, so hopefully it's not too bad. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. Make sure you check out the forum. We've got the Bit of Thinks checklist going. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, let me know your thoughts. If you used any of this, if you like it, if you hate it, if you have first-hand experience. I should mention this does have handrails. And there's our UK and US gallons, US and UK respectively. Out there. But I'll quit rambling. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you back here in the next one.